Those of you who are online, of you who will view this broadcast or this meeting after it is aired and has been stored on our YouTube channel, thank you for being here tonight, engaged in the business of Charleston County. Again, to our administrator, to our council colleagues, thank you all for being here this evening. Ms. Honeycutt is online temporarily and will be joining us in person soon as she makes her way through the traffic in Charleston County. At this time, we're going to start with our Planning and Public Works Committee. Mr. Pryor is the chair, and all members of council are part of that committee. Mr. Pryor. We're going to remove the minutes. Yeah.
Move for approval of the minutes, Mr. Chairman.
We're going to remove.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yep. Scratch that.
So the minutes will be removed. So we move right into item number 2A, which is abandonment.
Move for approval 2A.
Second.
All right.
Mr. Pryor, if you can turn your mic on. Is your mic on?
Yo, can you hear me? Mm-hmm. All right. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, ayes have it. Item number 2B is a zoning request, Orange Grove Road. Does anyone need to see the presentation? This was done in
Mr. Chairman,
public hearing. Yes, sir.
if I might, I'm kind of thinking about something. I had spoken with some of the neighbors the other night, and I understand they're having some discussions with the developer. So if there's no objection, I may move to defer this until the next committee meeting, see if anything can be worked out between the two parties.
I'll second it, Mr. Chair.
All right, well, I don't think we could just defer it. I don't think it takes a motion if you want to defer it. As the chair, I'll defer it until next committee meeting.
Might I ask our good councilman from that area, exactly, I know we from time to time do send individuals out to meet with the community, developers, et cetera. We did hear from individuals from our residents or citizens from that community at our last public hearing. Certainly, I've been looking at the issue and travel that road all the time. Based on, the concerns that were raised and the issues that were brought, they are legitimate and valid, in my opinion, based on, just the scale of the development that contemplates going in that area. So what are we sending them back to do?
There's a couple things, Mr. Chairman. Good question. I'm glad you brought it up. As the property is located in the unincorporated area, there is possibility that the applicant could annex into the city of Charleston, which may afford possibly more density there if they don't get what they want here. So I think there's a sense of the neighbors that something is going to go there. So they would maybe like the chance to meet with the builder a little bit more and see if they can find something that's palatable to the owner as well as to the neighbors.
I got you.
And
okay.
if something can be worked out between those two, I'd like to give them another week or two to see if they can find some
Well, I know from time to time when we send people back, we send them back with a specific task. So I wanted to know what
that's the task is
So you good with that?
yeah.
Right,
Okay. It's just to give them some time to talk.
Sorry, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to allow you to make a motion, and then Mr. Boyd can second it. Let's vote so it can be on public record. So it's been moved and duly seconded. Moved by Mr. Moody, seconded by Mr. Boykin. All in favor of deferral until our next Planning and Public Works Committee meeting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. That concludes our Planning and Public Works Committee agenda.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pryor. You lead your meetings in a very, very efficient way. So we appreciate your leadership of that committee. We now moved our Finance Committee meeting. We're going to start with item 2A, gun violence prevention.
Move approval.
Second. Probably moved and seconded. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. The ayes have it. Item 3, the consent agenda.
Move for approval A through L. If anybody got one they want to take off, but this moves it until Tuesday. If you got any questions.
Second. Probably moved and seconded. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. The ayes have it. We're going to have 4A, a presentation, transportation, sales tax, education, and engagement plan at this time. Mr. Adams.
right. Good evening, Chairman and members of council. I'm here to brief you on the Transportation Sales Tax Program Education and Engagement Plan. This is a timeline that we have put together. This concept was brought to us, and we distributed the scope of work on February 26th. It was then discussed by council on March 6th. At that meeting, the discussion revolved around asking staff to proceed and then bring back the selection to council for review. So after March 6th, we worked with procurement to advertise the solicitation. Our committee met, and now here we are tonight to bring back the results of that selection process. Just a reminder on the scope of services. This was distributed to council prior to the advertisement, but it's to conduct a review of the last referendum and the perception of the sales tax program, educate the public on the accomplishments of the program, the status and future plans, and to facilitate engagement, public engagement regarding development of a list of potential projects by others for a potential 2026 TST referendum. So the potential list by others, we're working with the BCD COG. We've engaged with them on that. They're hoping to come in June to provide council an update on that process. As well, the firm that has been selected that's in your packet has precedence in working with counties and other state agencies, such as the Port Authority, Election Commission, and so forth, and are qualified to provide these services. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right. Any council member with questions for Mr. Adams? Mr. Vice Chair.
Would this be the time to make comments in general? I just want to say that, quote Bob Dylan, you don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind is blowing. I mean, the voters spoke to us, and they told us they didn't want to spend the money on what we asked them to do. And I don't see how we can spend taxpayers' money to review the message that they gave us. There were, again, 101 of 108 precincts voted no and hell no, and almost 2/3. I can't imagine anything more counterproductive than for us to hire political consultants to try to manipulate the perceptions of the public on that. They understood what we were doing, and they said no. And I think this would rouse the opposition. I'd much rather, if we're going to have a dialogue, invite to come talk to us the groups that led the no vote and hear them and talk to us, and we can have a public hearing here and have a dialogue. Why were you so opposed to it? What was your point? Let's talk to the people themselves. You know, the Yes campaign hired the best political consultants money could buy with all the resources they wanted, and the people rejected it soundly. It's not a matter of massaging the message. It was what we presented, and now we have an opportunity to do it right. I just would strongly oppose any use of political consultants, and I question whether it was, and I defer to the attorney, whether it's even legal. I know how Berkeley County got in trouble with their school district referendums to hire, it'd be spending public money for a desired outcome for the next referendum. And I question whether that is a legal use of tax money. And, you know, from my perspective, it's not desirable either that, you know, in my precinct, and at least 5 of the councilmen sitting here, about 70% of the voters said no. And this would be, in a sense, outsourcing. We're elected officials. We were elected and ran, and we should have a sense of what people want in our communities. This would be outsourcing our job. And I would just oppose strongly any use of political consultants to manipulate what public perceptions are. We should use humility, transparency, and honesty to make amends to the public and just put everything out there and win them over by the example of our transparency and what we want to accomplish and make the case.
So
thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vice Chair. Mr. Adams, that is not a question for you. I'm sure that was a question
Yes.
for the council colleagues. And so we have heard our Vice Chair and the discussion that he is at least engaged us to enter into relative to this item. We sent staff back with the mandate of putting out an RFQ for an education and engagement campaign. This is not hiring a political consultant. Certainly, as we look at what we have done in previous transportation sales tax, it is not a bad idea in order to assess where you have been and the things that you've done well and the projects that we are able to feature, those featured projects from previous transportation sales tax, the accomplishments, the status, the future plans that we as a council can begin to project as it relates to our overarching leadership in transportation infrastructure in Charleston County. That's a real conversation that we have to have. We have been having those conversations with the COG. We've been having them with municipalities, particularly Charleston, North Charleston, Mount Pleasant, most immediately, and certainly all municipalities, recognizing that specifically with all the transportation congestion, safety issues that we have across the county, that there are targeted needs that we need to attend to across the county in all of our districts, and it would help us to have a strategy, a strategic plan for that. We have done this successfully as it relates to our Housing Our Future plan. We had to hire a consultant to do that. Nobody had capacity in order to aggregate the housing needs across Charleston County until we were able to engage a consultant who specifically was able to do that work. We've done that successfully with our Greenbelt program. We've done it successfully in other areas with our climate action planning. And so when we have hired consultants in order to help us navigate the momentous task, and this has not that staff, they're diligent, faithful, and they execute, their functions well, but this is above their scope. And from time to time, when we find ourselves in that position where it exceeds the internal capacity of our staff, it becomes prudent, smart, and wise for us to look externally and hire individuals that will be able to help us alongside that work. So I wanted to at least add that on the record from my perspective, because again, when meeting, we are not trying to influence anybody one way or another. That's not the scope of this. We've got an ethics committee review of this particular integration in our what we're trying to do, and it's not a breach of ethics. We've already crossed that bridge. So, Madam Attorney, if you want to say that, I've said it for you. You can call me a liar to my face. But we have done that. We've done that level of vetting even before bringing this, because we do not want to do anything that's in breach of the ethical standards for us as elected officials as it relates to our positions from Charleston on Charleston County Council. So it is an appropriate thing to do. We have done it before, and I think that as we begin contemplating moving forward, unless all of us per all of our districts are going to be out there whipping up the perceptions and sentiments of each community all across Charleston County in a way that is unorganized, we need some kind of strategic plan for that. Mr. Boykin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Kabrowski, if you look at that list right there, two of the things on there: educate the public on TST's accomplishment, status, and future plans, and facilitate public engagement regarding development of a list of potential projects by others for a potential 2026 TST referendum. Two of those things are about the upcoming referendum. This isn't hiring a bunch of lobbyists to go out there and try to, get the public to, support this plan. These folks are coming in to assist our staff, who are mainly engineers, technical thinkers, to come in and help us get our message out, especially on what we've done with the previous funding. I heard it over and over again. They've squandered the money. They've wasted the money. They've done nothing with it. We need to do a better job of transparency to get it out there. The Virginia Department of Transportation has an excellent platform where their public can go in and see everything. They can chase the dollars. They can chase the progress. They can stay updated on the progress of those projects. Part of my understanding of this was to have this same type of consultant come in and help build us a platform, not to convince people to support the referendum, to educate them on the accomplishments that have been done with the previous referendums. Additionally, this is nothing like the Berkeley County thing, and Madam Attorney, you've already said it. You've already done the checking of legally and ethically. We're not doing anything wrong here. We're putting it right out the front. We're not using this to try to sway voters to do anything, but we are trying to communicate with them. Additionally, they can advise us on, we didn't put the projects, the timelines, and the cost on the ballot. We did it on an ordinance, and most of the public is not going to ever read an ordinance, nor should they have to. I think there's a lot of lessons learned, but I'd like the reinforcement for these folks to come in and show us how to do it better. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Honeycutt?
I apologize. I'll yield to the attorney.
Yes, Madam Attorney.
So no one asked me the question, but I want to make sure that I answered it since I was referenced several times. But this was reviewed, and there are no legal or ethical concerns with it at this point in time.
Thank you so much, Madam Attorney. And Ms. Honeycutt?
When the floor is open, I think for debate on a motion, I'll be happy to engage in the discussion. But I did want to ask Mr. Adams a question if he's still available.
Yes, he is still available. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Adams, I know this is coming from Public Works and Finance as a staff recommendation. Do you believe it is helpful for staff to have a consultant to help with the messaging? I recall us going, to various areas in the county with our staff trying to manage all of the information. Do you believe that's something that would help going forward if we do a 26 referendum?
I would reference the last one in 2024 was an extreme burden on staff as far as coordinating a lot of the public outreach, the meetings and so forth. As Councilman Boykin mentioned, our staff is primarily engineering staff in this area, and our expertise is not necessarily in public engagement.
There were counties in 2020 in the last referendum cycle where, they had a question on the ballot, sales tax question, Aiken, Allendale, Barnwell, Chesterfield, Georgetown, Greenwood, Horry, Jasper, McCormick, Orangeburg, Richland, and York. And then there were even school construction questions in Aiken County, Lexington, Richland, School District 5, York, 1. School District, all, again, passing successfully and favorably. Several of these engaging in a similar type of engagement and education model for strategic planning. And again, their transportation sales tax passed. And some of these counties, again, when you talk about public trust and perceptions and that sort of thing, there were all sorts of swirling public issues surrounding those same types of concerns based on these firms being hired to educate and engage internally so that we can strategically plan for the process. Those particular types of referenda passed successfully when they were placed on a ballot. Mr. Vice Chair.
Very briefly, I just heard a council member say that it was to hire consultants to help with the messaging. And in my humble opinion, that when you say help with the messaging and a consultant, that's helping to try to win and
So, Mr. Vice
affect the
Chair,
outcome.
Mr. Vice
And that's
Chair,
what my concern
I'm not
is,
cutting you
to
off.
spend money to do that. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chair, I'm not cutting you off. I would like, these are the scope of services
Thank
right
you.
here. Regardless of what we think we hear, conduct a review of the 2024 referendum and the public perception of the TST program. Educate the public on TST's accomplishment, status, and future plans. Facilitate public engagement regarding development of a list of potential projects by others for a potential 2026 TST referendum. Those are the items as it relates to the scope of this particular consultant.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Pryor.
Point of order, before we move forward, would someone like to make a motion so we can go ahead and do this discussion? Because, we're discussing it without a motion, so, and then I'll
Can I
chime
ask
in.
Mr. Adams one more question?
Ms. Honeycutt,
Could she wait until after the motion so it could be duly noted in the discussion?
point of order has been raised. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve.
Mr. Boykin has moved.
Mr. Chair.
Second.
Yes.
I will second that motion, Mr. Boykin, if you allow to have in that motion that direct staff to go and meet with these folks and then bring back the final product, which is the price, to council for final approval.
I have no issue with that and would accept that amendment, sir.
He moved and seconded with the amendment.
Mr. Chairman, I want to make clear the question I had for Mr. Adams is what exactly staff recommendation is, and that is what staff recommendation is, to go negotiate with this, I think, and bring it back. And if I misunderstood that, I just want to make sure from Mr. Adams, we understand clearly the staff recommendation.
So on the yellow sheet, it says authorize staff to enter into contract negotiations with a said firm for transportation sales tax program education and engagement, and if successful, enter into a contract with the understanding that funds are available in the fiscal year 26 Public Works General Fund budget. And so Mr. Pryor is adding an amendment that they bring that back to council.
The final price.
With the final price.
Yeah, because I don't want to give anybody that authority to negotiate for me without me knowing what the price is for the final product.
Great. Thank you for that clarification.
Mr. Boykin, you accepted that amendment?
I did, yes, sir.
All right, all those in favor? Yep, discussion.
Yeah, Mr. Worman's had his hand
Mr.
raised
Worman.
long before I did, so let me go after him.
No worries. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Moody. Yeah, well, I guess, listen, I'm going to vote for this. I think it's a pretty good idea. I don't really see a huge downside here. I think, to the education point, and maybe folks realize this, maybe they don't, but the transportation sales tax is an enormous part of like the functioning of what the county does. If you talk about what does the county do, one of the first things people are going to think about is building roads or using greenbelt funds. And so what we currently do, and frankly, I have a theory that we could do a lot more on the issue of flooding with this money, but that's for another day. But the point is what we could possibly do in the future. The LCRT, largely dependent on this type of funding. So, I do think, given that, we have a responsibility, if we're going to put this out again, to put out the best possible product we can and to give it the highest possibility to succeed that we can. And I think I can say that without breaking any ethical rules. Because otherwise, you're talking about either the county abandoning the citizens when it comes to traffic relief, I'll just tell you that for one, shutting down the Greenbelt program, shutting down, public transit, a lot of things, or maybe we'll just raise everybody's taxes. I mean, those are going to be the options you're looking at if this thing doesn't succeed, at some point in the near future. And maybe it's the wisest thing to not put it up in 2026. Maybe this group will come in and tell us, you guys really have trashed your reputation, which, in which case we're going to have to take a few years to kind of build that back. So, listen, more information I think is better. To Mr. Kabrowski's point, I think meeting with the folks who clearly had a finger on the pulse and were running the No campaign is something I'd be happy to do and would look forward to doing that myself. So I think more information is better, and I think, this is probably a prudent thing for us to do, given how important, the transportation sales tax funds are to the functioning of the county. I will just ask one question to Mr. Adams. The only tension that I do see, and I would kind of agree with Mr. Grabowski on this, is that we are the elected officials. We are the ones who are accountable. And so to this idea of, ceding that authority or something, I think the ultimate product that goes out, this list of projects, is something we're going to have to sign off on. We're going to have to make those pros and cons and cost-benefit analysis of what all that looks like. And so I guess can you tell me anything? You talk about a list of potential projects. Are they going to be giving us a number of things to consider, or are they going to be saying, no, this is what you need to put forward? I just don't want that view to get too narrowed by this process.
So we're not going to allow Mr. Adams to answer that because he doesn't even know that yet,
No.
right?
Well,
And so we have to engage in a process. We have not even, so we have a cart and a horse, and I think we're putting the cart before the horse. So we have not started that process yet. We need to start thinking about it.
Well, I think
And-
that's the answer then. If that's the answer, then that's the answer. That's not baked into what we're voting. Had
No, it's
that been
not
baked
baked
into
in.
what we're voting on, then I'd have maybe a little more concern. But it sounds like it's not. So, that was one thing I wanted to raise. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Boykin.
Mr. Whalen, I've got it on good authority that our staff has been working with the BCD COG and looking at it as regionally and holistically. And so a lot of this is going to be data-driven. They're the transportation folks for the region. And if I say that with confidence, that is the situation. I don't believe that this firm is going to have anything to do with the projects. That's out of their realm. This is only, our folks are bringing us the projects.
Okay. Well, facilitate public engagement regarding development of a list of potential projects is
So
what I
that's-
was kind of
That's
focused on.
information going out from the county.
Charrettes, town hall meetings after the fact. Mr. Moody and then Mr. Darby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't think I'm there yet. If we would have had this in 2022, I think I would have been all about it. But at this point, I don't support going back in 2026. So I don't think I can vote to engage a firm at this point in time. I mean, look, here's my read, and I hope I'm wrong. You know, East Cooper has got everything they want as far as infrastructure goes. Are they going to vote now that need is in West Ashley and the Islands? Are they going to vote to support that? No. 526 people that voted for 526, are they going to support this? Probably not. Anti-tax people? Probably not. I think if we go back in 2026, we're going to lose. Because based on, Mr. Warman, you hit it, the reputation. Mr. Adams told us a couple of weeks ago that every project on 2016 is done, Glenn McConnell, or substantially in progress. Did I hear that correct a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, I mean, we're
People don't
working
want-
diligently.
when they see a tax, they sign off on tax, they want the road open tomorrow. They don't care that it's in process. So the lies that are told about this process we've had in 2016, I don't think can be overcome in 2 years. I just don't think that's the case. So, voters said they didn't trust us, maybe, Mr. Worman. Voters said they didn't want to pay for 526. But what they also said is they don't want to pay for LCRT. They said they don't want to pay for green space. They don't want to pay for repaving their streets. That's what they said when they voted no. That's what they said. So the problem is, no, that's what they said. They said no to everything. Shut down green space, shut it all down. So the problem is if you go back in 26 and you lose again, you're done for 10 years. And then you talk about a gap between 2027 and whenever else you decide to go back. This council won't be here. Somebody else will have to go back. You get your butt kicked again in 2 years, you're done. So that's my problem with this at this point. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Darby?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not one to quote conservatives at all. But the father of modern conservatism said, it was Ronald Reagan, who said, here we go again. Is Mr. Thigpen and the administrator, are they full to that much of capacity that you mean to say that they can conduct a review of a referendum? You have to have a consultant to conduct a review of a referendum and the public perception? No, sir. No, sir. The perception already, we don't want it. It's no. So we got to pay a consultant to tell us again, no, they didn't want it? That's something that staff in the House can do. At least if I'm not crossing my ground. But hold on, please, sir. I'd rather, the administrator said, Darby, we are full to capacity, we can't do that. You mean to say that this staff was prudent and as intelligent as it is that it cannot educate the public on the accomplishment and the status of what they're doing? We have paid a consultant to do that? I don't understand that. Unless we just got money to throw around like that. And to me, let's be honest, this has the smell of reviving 526. I say to me, that's my personal opinion. And I'm an expert in my opinion. So I just think that if we need more information, Mr. Tootin is well equipped, at least from my perspective, at least providing the knowledge or the information that we need. But if he says, hey, this is too much for us, I might understand. But again, to me, I think it's just reviving a 526 for 2026. That's me, sir. Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Tootin?
Mr. Darby?
No, I wasn't a question, sir. I wasn't asking
Well,
a question.
I just,
Let me first say-
listen, I
Yes, sir.
think Eric and his staff are outstanding engineers. Engineers don't always relate best to the public. They have their own world, they have their own words. We have to get translations when we deal with them sometimes because what they take for granted and the vocabulary they use, we don't understand. So anything that they can do to help, I don't have a problem or an issue whatsoever with them building roads But if there's a message involved as far as the public persona, then any assistance that we could get in that endeavor would be greatly welcomed.
All right, Mr. Pryor?
Mr. Darby, you and I normally don't go back and forth, and I'm not going to go back and forth, but I see it different on this one. I don't see, at least I'm not directing them to tell me what went wrong. We all knew what went wrong. The people said no to 526. And I will tell you right now, if they come back and somehow 526 is on this referendum, I will be one to vote against it because the people have already spoken. There's no money there. This is a state project now that's already been unwinded. And so it's no way in the world I would put $2 billion of Charleston County taxpayers' money to support 526. Now, I thought we were looking to do more green belts, more roads in our neighborhoods and our districts, public safety stuff. That's what I'm looking at, and that's what that's what I'm going to be supporting. So if somebody comes and says this is a 526 resurrection, they can forget me because I said it the last time. I've had enough. I've gone as far as I'm willing to go. So 526 to me is in the rearview mirror. So I'll assure you that right here, Mr. Darby. But as far as the way this is reading, I don't think that Mr. Tootin and his staff is not capable of telling us, 526 was a disaster. I think they are telling us this is beyond their scope, just like it was when we did the recycling. When recycling came up, everybody said, why did the county need to get involved in recycling and hire somebody? Well, now we know we got one of the best programs in the country. So information is good, and information is knowledge, and knowledge is power. And knowledge can save you money if it's done the right way. So that's my only thing. So please don't take it as if I'm trying to revive 5, because I'm not. I've already given my word. I'm not reviving 526.
I have all of you in the queue. I wanted to, at least as a researcher myself, with a doctoral degree, looking at public's perception, that's a qualitative study. Being a quant guy myself, numbers are one thing, but having a study on both sides would not hurt. Also, looking at the scope of services, it is not the scope of this particular education and engagement consultant to come up with the project itself. So they would not have anything to do with suggesting any particular project. We heard that the COG is working alongside our staff, alongside the municipalities, all of them in Charleston County, to contemplate a list of projects that could potentially come on a list. And so that would not be the scope of this particular activity or the services that this particular education and engagement consultant would provide. I just wanted to clarify that because that's not what they're going to do. And so they will not come back and suggest to us, one thing or the other. That would be an exercise between the COG, our staff, and the municipalities across Charleston County. And I've been involved in some of those meetings, at least in the beginning, talkings of those and organizing of those activities. And that's going to be a long process itself. And so this particular engagement is not that engagement. Mr. Boykin, Mr. Darby, Mr. Vice Chair.
I wasn't finished. Mr. Pryor just, okay, I apologize.
Okay, so Mr. Darby, we'll come back to you since you were not finished.
Thank you, sir.
You recognize me, that's why. You recognize you, Mr. Darby. That's
Thank
why
you
I
very
did.
much. When the reference was about, there was 526 and all of these other major projects. That's what the citizens were going to vote on. There were a myriad of other projects. Now that we have removed 526, why we just can't work with the projects that was on the referendum? That would make common sense to me.
Mr. Darby, if you looked at the projects that made it on the referendum, all of those projects had most of them, let me say, because we've done an autopsy of those projects, many of them had a tangential relationship with 526. And so now that 526 itself as an extension is not on the major focus, then there's some other projects that could be, now when you look at the 22 that made the list, if you went in that room, you remember when we had all the billboards of different lists that came from various municipalities, there were more than 22. But those 22 were the 22 that made the list on the referendum because many of them had more relationship, with that 526 project. So again, there are a number of others that potentially could come up, like in Hollywood area. I mean, that would have never been a consideration, that malfunction junction there. And so there is now room and breadth for other projects to even, come on the table for consideration for us to even look at that may not. And so if we say just the 22 was not an all-encompassing list. There were some 50, 60, 70 that didn't make it in the 22. Mr. Boykin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Darby, it was 526 as the only priority project, but then I think it was 12 or 13 standalone projects, just like Chairman said. 526 is gone. It's done. It will never be a county project any way, shape, or form. DOT's got it. They'll put it on the shelf or they'll not do it at all. We're out of it. To that end, so that's not happening. We don't have to worry about that. What it does mean, though, we had those 13 projects that were listed. They were all important. Now they're critical. Because if 526 didn't happen, and it's even more an emphasis to get those other projects done. And additionally, $1.8 billion was going to go to 526. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, and I'll say it now. It was a terrible contract we were caught up in. It might have been good at the time, but the open-ended of it has put us where we are. And it was terrible that we were have to, as a county, spend $1.8 billion, and it wasn't a state project. We all can agree that that was not a place anybody wanted to wind up. I am happy, relieved, that that's off our plate and back to the state where it now should reside. What it does open is an opportunity for that $1.8 billion to go to everything else that's not Mark Clark. How many more road projects, vital road projects can we do? Perhaps some drainage work, more greenbelt, more money for the mass transit, more to go around all the way. And so this is an excellent opportunity to spread this money across the county and hit those critical projects. Thank you.
My final thing, sir, because you still didn't let me conclude, Mr. Chairman.
I do apologize. I didn't
No
realize
problem,
it.
sir. You're a minister, sir. I got to bow to you, sir. Because every man is right in his own eyes. And thank you for those sublime and majestic words, sir. Just as an example, when I was a little boy, Dad died and all that kind of, me and my mom, and I came up with something with worms. I know a lot of people, this young, y'all don't know anything about worms in your stomach. This worm. That's when you're real poor. You got worms. Yep. And my mother would get a teaspoon of sugar and put a drop of asafoetida on it, which was very, very bitter, but made the sugar was sweet, that the worm would eat the sugar, but yet get asafoetida too. I'm seeing all this and nothing but the sugar. And somehow 526 is going to be reinstituted. That's just my belief, sir. That's, again, my belief.
Yes.
And I hope the words you said are true, sir.
I won't lie to you.
I know you would never do that to me, sir. I realize that, sir. But that's just my opinion, Mr. Chair, and that's all I got to say for this afternoon, sir.
Mr. Vice Chair, Ms. Honeycutt, Mr. Sass.
I just want to say clearly, we don't need a consultant to tell us to be transparent and honest. In my opinion, since about the last referendum, somebody mentioned the other project, the 11 or 14, and I remind people that by design, there were hundreds of millions of dollars short on the referendum for those other projects. So nobody who voted for the referendum would have any certainty or idea that anything they voted for other than 526 wouldn't have been done. We don't need to pay somebody to tell us to be honest and transparent. That's one reason why it lost. And it was set up that the $2.5 billion was, set up that any cost overrun would have been borne by the taxpayers and come out of that referendum. And since it wasn't going to be built for 10 years or more, in all likelihood, the whole thing would have been eat up in one project and it was billed for the next 25 years. So I think that, we have an excellent staff, and if we do this, the taxpayers are going to wonder, what are we paying the staff for? And we were elected, and this is our job to do. We don't need to use taxpayers' money to tell us what to do on this. Be transparent and be honest, and do our job. And then to hire consultants, and remember the first person to bring this up had said that the hopes that having a third party evaluate what went wrong would turn public perception around, so voters are more inclined to vote yes on another potential transport sales transportation sales tax in 2026, and I come back and I'll say publicly that is an intent to influence the outcome of a referendum, which I think would be wrong and ill-advised to use taxpayers' money to influence the thing which think we're not allowed to do. That's our job to do it, be transparent and honest by the example of what we do and come up with things. We represent 9 districts here, and it's up to us to come up and have something that involves everybody. And I hope this time we don't engage in regional fights of accusing people from certain areas of being selfish. I mean, we're all in this together. We're one county, and anybody that drove here today can see the transportation problems, and that's our job. So let's do it. Thank you.
Ms. Honeycutt?
I guess we just see this differently, Mr. Kabrowski, because the idea is that this would facilitate transparency. The reason that we would bring these folks in. There was a November 22nd article in the South Carolina Gazette that outlined the 12 transportation sales taxes that did pass and how they passed. They were all facilitated by an education campaign internally, not a ballot steering campaign, which is totally different and would be inappropriate. But staff has said here tonight and has repeatedly said this is outside the scope of their expertise. And having them go around the county like we did last year, it costs time that they need to be doing the engineering work that they do. And so I apologize if there is any misconception. I don't know the top 2 people on this list. I had nothing to do with them. If there is this sense that I have somehow pushed this, it is not the case. I simply learned after the really big loss we had last year that we needed to take a different approach. And the very definition of insanity is doing the same thing, thinking you're going to get a different result. If truly the taxpayers don't trust us, then why would they trust the 9 of us in a year and a half? I think there is an important opportunity to get the message right about what our program does, not a message to vote one way or the other. And that is why I have repeatedly brought up this concept, because I do feel like it is a huge element of creating a referendum that could be successful. And I think it is our job to give it the best chance of passing. And so this is not, I don't know why this has become just about getting data on why the other referendum failed. That is a very small part of it. And if this group doesn't want that, then we just take it out of their scope. I do think that data-driven analysis helps form better strategies. But look, if this council says, no, we don't want you to study why voters would or wouldn't vote for a tax, fine. We don't have to do that, or why they didn't vote for the 24 tax. And lastly, I really hope to convince my colleague at the end of the table, Mr. Moody, to come around to this, because we are at a precipice. In 27, it is anticipated that this tax will end. And so when it ends, the effective sales tax rate will go down by 0.5%. The next time we were to try to do this, we will be raising taxes, and voters will be having to vote to raise their sales tax. And let me tell you something, if they didn't want to raise their sales tax 2 years ago when it was only a continuation of the existing tax, I can guarantee you they aren't going to want to actually raise it. So those are my concerns and the reasons that I do think that this is a good idea.
All right, Mr. Sass?
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Ms. Honeycutt. That was well said. I would like to say, Mr. Darby, I think your fears about 526, I don't think you need to worry about that. I think 526 is gone. If it reappears, it will be a state project, not a county project. I think all of us are very, very strongly feel about that. Yes, sir. So you have that. You have that. What I'd like to say is the landscape has changed from what we did in 2016 when we passed the last half-cent sales tax referendum. We had a list of projects that we started working on. Then we ran into COVID. Then we ran into all kinds of other problems. And COVID was not only people being sick, but it meant a lot of work didn't get done. It meant people weren't in the office. It meant things weren't getting done. And so all the projects got slowed down. And then the regulations got tougher. The regulations got tougher. It got harder and harder to get projects back.
the first project we started working on in this whole 2016 sales tax referendum was the Highway 41 project. We started working on that one first. We're not building it yet. We haven't gotten it back. We're waiting on getting our permits. So I mean, and that's not our fault. But the voters don't see that. And like somebody said earlier, they vote, they want to get a bridge built, they want it built tomorrow. They don't want to wait, like we're going to have to wait for 17 in Maine. And, but that work, you can see it going on, it's looking good. You can see a lot while you're sitting there, but you see a lot of cones. And, but it's happening, we're getting it done. But that project, I'd like to remind you, is about twice as expensive as it was when we originally designed it. And so we're going to have to be very, very picky when we go into these next set of projects, that we can pick projects that we can complete and that we can afford. And they're all going to be much more expensive than they are now, 2 years from now or 3 years from now. I would like to say that one of the things that I'd like to see, it was not my idea, but I'd like to see some sort of platform that citizens can get on and see the progress of each one of these projects. Like 17 in Maine, where are we today? We are 10% complete, or we've got, how far are we? And what's the next big step? What's the next big hurdle that's got to happen? I think that would help. But I will tell you, I was very disappointed when we had our list of projects, we had our meetings with the public. There was not much public. The public did not really come out and engage us like I was hoping they would. There was not a lot of public engagement. And you're right, our engineers were there, and they were out there to greet people and to talk about the projects, and we were right there with them. But I was very disappointed we didn't have as many people show up as I was hoping we would see. But they did talk about the projects, and so I think that was good, but we just didn't get the turnout I really wanted to see. And I got to tell you, coming here tonight, I was ready to vote against this. I'm going to vote for it tonight because I know that we're going to get a number back from somebody that will make a decision for whether we go forward or not. And that's correct, Mr. Chairman?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you all very much.
All right, we'll have a roll call vote.
Mr. Boykin? Aye. Mr. Darby? Mrs. Honeycutt? Aye. Mr. Kabrowski?
Nay.
Mr. Moody?
Nay.
Mr. Pryor?
Aye.
Mr. Sass?
Aye.
Mr. Werman? Aye. Mr. Middleton?
Aye.
Motion passes with 6 ayes and 3 nays.
All right, item 5A.
Move for approval on items 5A, naming
is
of
just-
the...
Second.
Probably moved and seconded. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. The ayes have it. Just wanted to give you an update on 5B, 993, 995 Morrison Drive. I did share with you again, just to refresh your memory, the letter of intent that came from the city of Charleston on the unsolicited bid, to purchase the property. And then, we kind of met and asked them to come back to us with a little bit more specification as it relates to restrictions for the affordable housing piece, and certainly we're still in conversations with them. Just wanted to give you an update. I talked to the mayor yesterday. Our committee, meaning Mr. Wehrman, Mr. Sass, and I, and then anybody else who wants to be a part of it, we're going to meet again with the cities, along with the administrator, the attorney, our clerk. We're going to meet again with the mayor, sit down with him again, with he and his team, council members, the same persons who were there the last time, and talk through some of those bulleted items that we had some concerns about that somehow were presented that we would like to discuss. And so more conversations on that. We have not dropped the ball on it. That we just needed to have some additional face-to-face talks with them before moving forward. He's good with it. Their timeline is still, conducive to us sitting down talking again. And so we're hoping that that's going to be very soon.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I'm glad you brought that up. 'Cause I think, remember, I talked to you earlier this week. Now, they came to us, and they were in dire need. They needed it right then. And, we basically took this thing off the market to satisfy them. And, you know, it was under my impression that they was ready to close and close in a hurry to get this thing out of the way. But now I'm coming back with all these demands, you know, well, we got to do our due diligence. Well, you know, I think we got to set a firm time with these folks. And if they're not interested in our timeline, then let's just go and do what we got to do. But in waiting on them to do this, I went by there the other day, and that property has been cleared. It looks real nice. I think we got to look at maybe bringing somebody in, let Walt find somebody to park cars there until this thing is over, because it is my understanding the city is going to ask us to allow them to use the parking until this thing is signed. Why would we do that? I mean, it's our property. You know, they're holding up this process. So if any parking is going to go down there, we got to receive the revenue. So that's just, you know, I don't know how other council members feel, but I think as far as this due diligence period and all, we need to move on. Either they want the property or they don't, because I saw the other day, they were going to spend another $30 or $35 million on the West Edge project. Okay, so where's that money going to come from? The money, this $30 million, they said they already had that. They had $20 million in TIF, and they had another $10 million to move forward. So if they want to buy the property, they can do their due diligence after they give us a check, because it's our property. So I just want to make that perfectly clear and be on the record that if any parking is going to go in there, we ought to receive the revenue, not them, because they don't own it, we do.
That is duly noted, and so if you would...
When you go meet with them, you know, we need to set a timeline, tell them, you know, it's no more due diligence, either you want it or you don't, and we can put it on the market and somebody else can take a look at it, and then they can deal with all that. But the reason I thought we sold to them was to eliminate all this due diligence, because they own the zoning, they own everything down there, so all we need is to check.
Duly noted. Mr. Rehrman?
Just for the record, I think it's going to be for like CARTA, like CARTA to use as
park
the
and
hot
ride.
one. Yeah, so, I mean,
Right.
I don't,
The money still should go
okay.
to us. Carter, we subsidize Carter, excuse me for cutting you off, sir, but we subsidize Carter. Carter's gonna make a profit if somebody parks down there. If they don't, we should charge for parking, because parking isn't free. So I'm just saying, I think that, you know, in my opinion, we ought to direct Mr. Smalls and his staff to maybe contract with somebody or either do it ourselves, and, you know, this is a profit.
All right, so I see some shaking of heads going on, and so
I think it's a marvelous idea.
all right, so if you all give me permission on Wednesday, when we have our Wednesday meetings, we'll further flesh that out and see how that can happen. That's something you all wanted?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
When are your Wednesday meetings, sir?
12 o'clock PM. It's been that way before me, and so I just fell into the spot.
Well, I wish I would have an opportunity, you know, not to be ostentatious, but as an educator, I just can't take off my job like that.
Yes, sir.
I just can't. And it'd be nice if I could attend one of these meetings in the afternoon,
So,
if that's permissible, sir.
Mr. Darby, you know, when I became chair,
Yes,
you know,
sir.
and they gave me the structure,
Yes, sir.
I had to contort myself into their structure.
Yes, sir.
Although, you know, I work during the day too.
Yes, sir.
And so I've had to fit it in.
Yes, sir.
But I was wondering if there was another time myself.
Yes,
you know,
sir.
But I always invite council members to come
No-
to those
no doubt,
meetings.
sir.
If you can't
Yes, sir.
come, I take your concerns, we discuss them at that meeting. But certainly, Madam Attorney, Mr. Administrator, Madam Clerk, do note Mr. Darby's request for change of time.
Yes,
At
sir.
least once or twice, that's what I'm asking, not. as
Works
a
for me,
definitive,
because
sir.
Yes, sir.
Well, why did you all
4 o'clock.
tell me you do 12 o'clock? I'm
4
just
o'clock
kidding.
every Wednesday.
When I became chair, they said, well, we meet this time. And I just said, okay. And I have a job
I say 4 o'clock.
every day. And I come because I just want to fall in place.
Whatever time you said, they'll adjust to your time.
Well, look here, I've just learned, you know, especially I've learned to do as little as I can
Yeah.
to make big waves.
But I think if you say 4, they'll adjust their schedule.
So I'm just trying to fall in, because next thing you know, then that would be something else that I've done. All right, thank you so much. So we will talk about that at the Wednesday or whatever day of the week meeting at whatever time it will be. Item 6.
Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if I'll catch any flack, but I think, has everybody met with the budget folks so far? Would you raise your hand? So, you know, so I'm gonna make a motion to approve 6A through.
Has everyone met with the, so I know you made that question, but I did receive a list. Did everybody? Everybody has, okay.
Yeah. And I'm going to make a motion to go 6A through H with the right to amend up to third reading. So if anybody got any.
Second.
Because, you should, staff made a presentation. And if anybody wants to go in and sit down with staff or look at the budget book themselves, they had an opportunity to do that. And presentation has already been made at our other meeting about a week or so ago.
H and 4A?
Mr. Darby, yes.
What did you say, Mr. Darby?
My question is there a relationship between 6H and 4A?
No, sir.
Okay, I'm just asking.
That's totally different.
The
This is the
accounting
budget.
of
This is the budget right
the
now.
very much.
TSP funds.
Mr. Gala, you good with that, sir? Because I know you don't want to stand up here for an hour to do a presentation tonight.
I think they'll be fine with you passing.
Yeah, and if anybody got any questions, they can go back to him, but we can amend it up to third reading.
All right, it's been properly moved, and I think I heard a second.
Yes, sir.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. 6A through H. All right. Let us go to our special county council meeting. At this time, the Freedom of Information Act.
In compliance with the Freedom of Information Act, notice of meeting was posted and agendas were distributed to news media and persons requesting notification.
Item 2.
For committee recommendation.
Second.
All right,
All items.
2A through H. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Opposers, nay. We do have first readings.
Yes, sir. An ordinance providing for the levy of taxes for corporate purposes of Charleston County for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025 and ending June 30th, 2026, hereinafter referred to as fiscal year 2026, making appropriations from the general fund and other funds of Charleston County for such purposes, and further providing for the levy of taxes for corporate purposes of Charleston County, including the Onondaga-McClellanville Consolidated Fire Protection District, East Cooper Fire District, Northern Charleston County Fire District, West St. Andrews Fire District, and Trident Technical College for fiscal year 2026, providing for appropriations from such funds created for the purposes of the Onondaga-McClellanville Consolidated Fire Protection District, East Cooper Fire District, Northern Charleston County Fire District, West St. Andrews Fire District, and Trident Technical College in order to supply the necessary functions of the units, providing for budget control of the appropriations by the Charleston County Council and the Charleston County Administrator, making provisions for the fiscal affairs of Charleston County, and providing for the issuance of tax anticipation notes in an amount up to $100 million for Charleston County and up to $1 million for the Onondaga-McClellanville Consolidated Fire Protection District. And an ordinance approving the budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025 and ending June 30th, 2026, and directing the auditor of Charleston County to levy the necessary millage and the treasurer to collect taxes for the Charleston County Park and Recreation Commission, the Cooper River Park and Playground Commission, the North Charleston District, the St. Andrews Parish Parks and Playground Commission, the St. John's Fire District, and the St. Paul's Fire District, and providing for the issuance of tax anticipation notes in an amount up to $3 million for the Charleston County Park and Recreation Commission and up to $1,100,000 for the St. Andrews Parks and Playground Commission and up to $1,500,000 for the St. John's Fire District. And finally, an ordinance amending those portions of Charleston County Code, Section 2-137, dealing with Building Inspection Services Department fees.
All right, we have multiple graduations going on in Charleston County this week, this evening. Congratulations, Mr. Pryor, on your granddaughter graduating. Congratulations to any and all of you who have children graduating or transitioning or matriculating from one level to the next. Berkeley County is having graduations on next week, so again, let us continue to push forward.
Mr. Chairman, that's my second granddaughter. Yeah. Thank you. First one already got out of college.
Yes, sir, absolutely, man. I don't know. Yes, sir, absolutely.
I didn't see you, please.
Had met with Mr. Pryor
Yeah, look,
at 3 o'clock
I've already
before.
gotten into the 12 o'clock rhythm, so I've
Yes,
already
sir.
structured
Yes,
my
sir.
life around
Yes,
12 o'clock.
sir.
But
Yes,
but
sir.
that first meeting
it's
we
better for us
Right.
because staff
Staff.
is here and all of that. And when Mr. Pryor would come at 4, staff is getting ready.
right.